Test, test, test.
Good morning, Morning Star. It is 10:27 in 3 minutes. We will be starting with parables. Make your way inside the sanctuary, get your cup of coffee, a donut, and make yourselves comfortable.
Look at you. She's ready. Hi. You look so cute. Are you tired? No, you're just stretching. Oh, she's got it.
I watched ninjas.
Yeah. She just said, "I'm ready." I'm ready. Are you going to do the interview? Okay. What question do you have for Miss Janet?
I got ninjas.
She has ninjas. You do?
Great.
Yeah.
Where do you keep these ninjas?
I put up there.
In
And
fr-
I lost them.
You lost them.
Yeah.
That's sad.
I got 2 yards.
Yeah?
Now this was my favorite toy.
It's your favorite toy?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you have there? What's that?
Immune kit.
What is it?
Immune kit.
You did.
I heard it. I heard communion.
Patty.
Do you have a question for Patty?
I need to go toy.
Do you want to go with Patty? Say hi to Patty. Give her a hug. Toy lights. Yeah, the candle. Is that what you mean? Yeah, you can go say hi to Patty.
That's the way I go downstairs.
Yeah. That's the safe way to go down the stairs, in case anybody's wondering. The toy light. Yeah, I think that's what she was saying, Eileen, the toy light. Oh, she has a different toy now. Uh-oh, okay. Oh, my goodness, what is that?
Toy.
It's a My Little Pony. What's the My Little Pony's name?
Toy.
Yeah, do you know the name of the Twilight? Twilight! Yes!
Did I like toy?
Do you like Twilight, she says?
Did you?
Thank you, Olivia. We're going to talk with Miss Janet now. Do you want to go sit with Daddy? No, you want to sit with Janet. Oh, look, Miss Amanda's ready for you. Look. Go show Miss Amanda Twilight. Do you need some help? You're welcome, baby. I just wish she had a little bit of confidence, you know?
Yeah.
Welcome to Parables. We are here with Janet McQueen. I'm so excited. Yeah, so excited to be having this conversation. Janet only threatened to walk off the stage 2 times.
Yeah. Or not come in at all.
Or to not come in at all, yeah. Okay, Janet, I think most people know who you are, but not all of us know your story, and I certainly don't. Like, I don't know where you grew up. Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Illinois near Chicago.
Could you place, I know it's awkward, but could you place the mic a little closer to
Oh,
your
yes. I was born in Chicago Heights, Illinois in 1946. And my parents, it was, not long after the war, and my dad had some service-related, he wasn't in battle, but he had some service-related issues that required them to move to a warmer climate. And my mother had been a national field secretary for American Red Cross during the war. She had served for 12 states. She had been a field, she'd gone to Mexico and everything with Red Cross. And she suggested New Mexico. She really liked it here. And we ended up in, you won't believe this, White City. Does anybody know where White City is outside of Carlsbad? Okay, that is not a good place to live, but that's where my parents moved on Thanksgiving Day in 1947. We arrived in New Mexico with my mom 6 months pregnant with my sister. We were in White City, and then my dad worked in White City for a while, and we moved into Carlsbad, which was much better. And then I moved to Roswell when we were 12. My mom took a job there. I lived in Roswell through high school. Came to college at NMSU in 1964 and graduated in 69. I lived here in town and worked at NMSU till I got married at the old age of 30 in 1976. Was gone to Texas and then Oklahoma for 10 years. We got divorced and I moved back. So I've been in Las Cruces a long time.
That's great. So most of your life in New Mexico.
Yes.
Great, that's wonderful. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your family. You've mentioned your parents and your sister.
Yes.
And you mentioned a marriage. Tell us more.
Okay. Yes, all of my nuclear family is here in Las Cruces. My sister lives here in an apartment alone, which she now has dementia getting worse quickly, so that's a difficult situation at the moment. My son, who a lot of you know, Craig McQueen, he lives with me. He was diagnosed in 2012 with a very serious autoimmune condition that is not curable, it's progressive. So he can't really work now, and he's on disability, thank God. So he lives with me, which is wonderful. My daughter and her husband, Matt, also live in Las Cruces, so we're all here, all of us.
Well, and some of us do know Megan.
Yeah, some of you know Megan, for sure. She directed Frozen Junior
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
Oh,
How many of you saw Frozen when it was here? Yeah. It was amazing to watch her work.
she's in
She's
Missouri
so
right now doing a
gifted.
play.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
that's just in
great.
Missouri.
That's wonderful. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your faith background.
Well, there is not a lot to tell, but my parents, when we lived in Carlsbad, we went to First Christian Church in Carlsbad, and I remember that. And then when we moved to Roswell, we became involved at First Methodist Church in Roswell, which is the largest church in Roswell. But the thing is, my parents didn't go with us. When we were little, like in Carlsbad, they did. When we got to Roswell, my parents took us every Sunday. We went every Sunday. My sister and I were very involved in MYF, Methodist Youth Fellowship. My mom, I'm not sure why they didn't go. My mother was a full-time executive there, and it was like their only free time, I think. But they both grew up. My mother grew up in going to the Christian church. My father actually lived next door in Ohio to a Methodist church and never missed Sunday school for 12 years. So there you go. But I got it somehow. So there you go.
You did, and there's some Methodist background in that.
Yes,
We hear
yes.
that.
Yeah.
And so you talked a little bit about your work at NMSU. Tell us more about your work history and background.
Okay. Out of high school, I worked full-time every summer doing medical transcription for a pathologist in Roswell. When I graduated, my degree was in English ed, and the thought of teaching terrified me, which Jeff Lewis can certainly understand because we're in the same boat. We didn't teach, but we got our degrees in education. I was a secretary at NMSU for 7 years in the early 70s for 2 federal projects that were operated by contract with NMSU. Then I got married. I did not work for the 10 years I was married, and had my children were born in 78 and 80. And then when I moved back after the divorce, I was hired again in NMSU. I worked 23 years straight in 3 different departments, ending with facilities planning and construction. And because of that job, I was offered a job when I retired 12 years ago, and I'm still working half-time, and I'm 76, so there you go. Yeah, and so I still work as an office manager for an architectural firm here in town, half-time. I job share with another lady. So that's it.
But there's connection with your degree in terms of language and connecting people with communication, and I'm sure that has something to do with the formation of relationships in the community within the office, but also how the office connects with the community. Would you say that's true?
I agree, yeah. I love working. I like meeting people. I love meeting new people. And I love meeting new people here, which is that's why I come early. Before I go to the 11:15 service, but I'm always here by 9:45 or so that I can help refill coffee things and see the new people and see the people from the other service, because I really enjoy that a lot.
And that was kind of my point, because I know that you wouldn't be happy just sitting behind a desk. You have to be connecting with
Yes.
people, and that is a gift that you share here. So tell us a little more about how you came to Morningstar. What was your introduction, and why have you stayed?
Okay, that's a good story. I actually was at St. Paul's when I moved back here, and the conference, New Mexico Conference, decided to do a church plant to begin a new Methodist church on the east side of town. And they recruited people from all of the Methodist churches here to help in a calling bank. So you would go and it was in an insurance office in the evenings, and you would go and call people, just calling people, which would never work now because their phones would block you and you would never get through. But back in the day, before cell phones, that worked, and we just reached out to thousands of people in Las Cruces and let them know that there was a new church coming in. Recently, Steve James, our founding pastor, was here. That was amazing. And so having done that, I thought, maybe it's time for a new start. I'll just try going to this new church when it began, which I did. And I joined probably the second year. Jeff was charter. Nancy Hastings was charter, I think, as well, Nancy and Robin. But I was close to charter, so I've been here since 1990 when I joined. So, and my daughter was actually president of the youth group at one time, believe it or not. And my son was Joseph in the children's Christmas pageant. So there you go. My children were around at those
Oh, that's wonderful. And so really from the beginning, perhaps not technically charter, but from the beginning,
from the
you
beginning.
had a connection with Morning Star. And so that was 35 years ago
Yes.
at this point. Why do you stick around?
I tell you, this church is the most loving and accepting place that I've ever been. Like, I went through some very difficult family times in the 90s, and very bad. And so bad that things were on the front page of the newspaper. And I didn't want to go to church. It was a Sunday. I didn't want to go to church. And people called me and said, "Are you okay?" People cared. They truly cared about me, and they've cared about me and loved me forever. This church does so much in the community, does so much good for those less fortunate, and that's why I've stayed. I will never leave. It's just been, and I will tell you, when my mother, both my parents passed away, of course, while I was attending here, and when my mom was moving from her house, after my dad died, she decided to sell the house and move into an apartment that was right across the street from where she lived. And they asked people if they wanted to help her move. And the pastor, Curtis Bentley, and all these people showed up at the house, and they moved her. In like 3 hours, they moved everything. And I thought, these people didn't need to do that, but they did. They were so kind. And there's a really kind of miraculous thing that happened that was related to Morning Star. My sister in 2017 had she had scheduled neck surgery in El Paso. And during the middle of the night after the surgery, she's on morphine, and she started having, just moving, jerking, and she pulled the drain out of her neck. And she coded twice, so basically she died 2 times after surgery. And they called me, and I went right to the hospital. I was in El Paso. And the next morning, well, it was like 5:30 in the morning, so when I got there, I called Morning Star, and it just happened to be the women's Bible study was going on, and the secretary went in and said, there's an urgent prayer request. Janet's sister, because the doctor told me she was the sickest patient in the hospital and she might not survive. And Stuart, bless Stuart for this, he contacted Pastor Tom Garman in El Paso, who used to be part of our singles group here, and Tom went to see my sister. I went to get something to eat when he came, so I didn't even know, and he prayed over her. And do you know, she completely recovered. She completely recovered. It was 2 weeks in ICU and 3 weeks in rehab, and she was fine. So I just can't thank Morning Star enough. I just appreciate it so much that it's done.
That's a beautiful, powerful story. So I was going to ask you about your favorite memory connected to Morning Star. You may have already shared it.
That was one. A lot of things like your Bible studies and the one that Johnny's leading are wonderful. I love that so much. Doing it from home now because it's real stressful with my sister's situation at the moment. But I remember when they started the Wednesday night activities. I mean, a lot of you here will remember that. Like, I think it was Travis was the pastor when that started. And I thought, oh, this will never work. People won't come. And it was amazing. It was so successful. People would be lining the hallways. You know, we had different classes and jewelry making and Bible studies and all sorts of things and sharing a meal together. That was wonderful. And there's just so many things that I think of. A huge event where it was around Christmas. Does anybody remember like a sign-up or an auction and a dinner where we had an auction and there was a fundraising auction and we had a dinner and it was all in this room or something? And just every time I come to church, even if I'm having a really bad morning and I'm stressed, as soon as I walk in and I sit down, I just feel at peace here. And that's a moment that goes on and on, that will never end.
That's beautiful. I hope other people feel that same peace. That's really great. So some of us know about the ways that you serve, and we could spend a lot of time talking about that because you do serve in so many different ways. But can you just share a little bit about how you serve? And we'll talk specifically about the prayer ministry
Okay,
in a
great.
minute.
Right now, I'm part of the Congregational Care Ministry, which is just getting ready to kick off in May with 4 different groups of prayer, of congregational support. This is a very minor job, but I help as the coffee barista person who comes and refills coffee and water and those kinds of things.
Give
And
her a round of applause for that.
And-
coffee.
But the best is the group of people who stay with me after church every week and clean up, and thank you all. You know who you are. I appreciate you. And yes, the prayer concern email is, I volunteered about 1.5 years ago to do that. You know, I said, I can do a prayer concern email. It's easy. I mean, I'm an office manager. I can do Office-y related things, so I can definitely set up a group for that. And I think it's been very helpful.
Oh, certainly. I didn't realize it was that recent.
It is.
So that was not
I asked
long
Kathy.
before
Mm.
I came
No,
here
it was
then.
like, yes, right before, because I thought, we don't have a way where everybody knows that wants to know what's going on, that are concerns in the congregation,
Janet,
you know?
sometimes I find out through your prayer email.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is fine. That's fine. If you know to contact Janet, then I'll get the information.
People text me, people call me, people email me, people talk to me in person. I make notes on my phone every week of what I need to, put in there. But it's powerful that so many people care so much to pray about the individual needs of people here. It's so appreciated, and you can feel that power of prayer.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are not receiving the email, Janet crafts an email at least once a week, and it goes out on Mondays, right? And so if you're not receiving that, let her know, and she'll add your email address to that. But if you have an urgent prayer request, you'll send that out,
Yes, yes.
whenever that's
Yes,
needed
right.
as well, which is really helpful. So how can they submit concerns and joys to you? What's the best way?
They can do it through the website because there is a link to the prayer concern email. They can tell me, they can call the church office and leave a message, and they will get that message to me. Just leave your email address, and I'll be glad to add you. Right now, I believe I have 58 individuals receiving that email. So, however, I will say it's from prayer@mstarlc.church. And that isn't the email I use most in my personal life. So if there is something urgent, if you text me or call me, that is the best way to get a hold of me. But I look at the Gmail account frequently as well.
So what would you say to people who are looking to get involved at Morning Star? Because you do have a wide view of everything that's going on, partly because you are praying in so many different ways. What would you say for those who are looking to get involved? Where should they start?
I would say when you sign up, like outside, when you sign in here on our contact list, to indicate you want to receive the email from the church that goes out twice a week, right? Fridays or sometimes Fridays, Monday. And get that. Everything is in there. And all the things that are coming up, any activities that are coming up, any opportunities to serve, like the Lighthouse Pantry, are indicated in there. Talk to somebody who's here, and they can direct you to someone who can fill you in on opportunities. Because it's always good to see new people doing new things. Like even the choir, it's so good to see the choir filling back up.
Yeah, it's
you know?
growing. The
It's
choir's
great.
growing. Yeah, it is. And I think that's a response to the presence of God at work in this moment. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about next, because you do have this long view. You've been present from the calling, right, to the first meetings that were not on this location, right, through all of the building projects and all of the transformations and all of the pastors, through a pandemic,
Yes, yeah.
and the results of that. And so I'm just wondering now, what is your hope for Morning Star? Having experienced all of those things and the ups and the downs, do you think we're in a pretty good place?
I do think we're in a pretty good place. I think we're recovering after COVID, which was horrible. I mean, that was so hard to have to not come and be here. And the fact that we're here today and we're getting new members is wonderful. My hope is that Morning Star continue to grow in love, grow in faith, grow in support of each other, reach out, keep up our ministries that are so important to the community with the Lighthouse and all the many ways that we reach out into the community. The weddings was a wonderful thing. That is a wonderful new event that you've brought here. And that we look to expand the table. As Amy has been talking about, we invite others and we bring others into our community and let them share the fellowship and the love that we have here.
One of the things I love about you, Janet, is that you are always looking for what can we do next, not to erase what has been done, but to
Right.
build on it. And so there are a couple of things that are kind of in the works. And so let's talk about those so people can find
Okay.
out about them. Let's start with the congregational care. You mentioned that. And,
Yes.
and you're going to be really involved in one of those teams. You mentioned that there are 4 teams within the larger team. Can you tell everybody what the others are? And I'll help you.
If I can, okay, it's the prayer and support and visitation. Is that a separate one? And what is the other one?
Grief.
Grief,
Yeah.
right. And it's wonderful because we're recruiting people to serve on those various teams so that we'll have a way to actually know when there's a need in the congregation and have people to be able to respond to that need.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing thing. In prayer, I mean, there isn't like that much for that particular group other than what's being done. There may be some more things, but
Yeah.
there's a lot in the support area, from sending cards to people to arranging meals with grief to, Grief Share, which Chris does so wonderfully and has that opportunity too, but like in moving forward through that process and immediate needs of somebody in grief. And we've learned a lot about grief in the past
We have.
a year and a half or so here,
Yeah.
so.
That's something that we've talked about as well, with Morning Star being 35 years old and having younger members from the start. This is really the first time in the life of the community where we've had so many deaths, one right after the other. For a pastor, that's a common experience. When I got here, I said, so are you doing about a dozen funerals a year? And they said, no, not here. And now we are, right? Because the congregation has aged in this way. We still have many younger people, but it's taken this long in the life of the community to reach this stage, and that's hard. So we've got that added layer of collective grief that we're working through, which makes the prayer ministry even more important. So I want to say, as part of the congregational care piece, Olivia is roaring. As part of the congregational care piece, you're already doing congregational care, all
Right.
of you. And what Janet is explaining is that we're organizing that in a way that people can know how to request needs and to know how to help with those 4 teams within the larger team. And it's a great process, and we'll be sharing more about that in the weeks to come. Right? And I think as your prayer ministry, as your team grows, there may be ways that we can incorporate different prayer vigils or different
Right.
ways to pray
Right.
within the worship services as
Exactly,
well.
yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, anything else about congregational care?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the other thing that's going to be coming up in the fall?
I will. Those of you who've been here for a while may remember Dinners for 8. We're going to be bringing that back in the fall, so probably sign-ups in maybe August or maybe into early September, and then bringing back, that's just a very informal program where there is a leader for each group of 8 people, and you get together once a month to dine together. And it's always been dinners for 8 in the past, but this year we're going to make it lunch or dinner, because many people do not want to go out at night, especially in the winter when it's dark, and don't want to drive at night, at least in my age group. You younger people don't know what I'm talking about, but that's okay. You'll get there one of these days, and you'll figure it all out. But I'm really looking forward to this. I chaired this for about 7 or 8 years, I think, and every year we had a big dinner at La Posta or at a different restaurant together with everybody from the group. And it's a great way to meet new people. So I'm hoping to encourage new people to sign up for this so they can meet those of us who have been here for a while. But it's a wonderful experience. That's how I first met Dixie, who is one of my very best friends here. I met her through Dinners for 8, and I would not have known her because, how would I ever have had contact with her?
And now
So-
you're close friends. That's really wonderful. So we'll be sharing more about that as it comes up, and it's partly why we're doing this parables thing as well. Knowing each other's stories, having these conversations, learning about each other helps us grow in our empathy and our compassion and our ability to give each other the benefit of the doubt, which makes our community stronger. So I'm really excited that
Yeah,
you
it's going to be
and
great.
others are willing to help that. Okay, so I know people want to ask you questions, so let's make sure we have time for that. Anything that you want to ask? Okay, Cindy.
ASA Architects on Alameda. It's owned by Ted Shelton. Okay.
Uh,
You know, okay.
Fran?
I don't know for charge conscience, but I'll tell you this. On the leadership board, and before that, the administrative council, I was secretary every time I was on it, and the last time was 6 years straight. And when they put in the charge conference material that my service would end in 2019, I said, you know what? Time to back out of this, because I don't think I'm going to be here in 1,000 years. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think that's happening. So,
Sure. Okay.
thank
I'm
you.
going to say that again in case you didn't hear it. So Fran each of these 4 teams are being led by congregation members to make those sustainable. So Fran is leading the visitation team. She's meeting with a few other members at 1:30. At 1:30. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Fran-
1:30 tomorrow in the library if you want to brainstorm about visitation needs.
I'll email you because I work tomorrow, so I can't come, but I'll email you with some thoughts on that.
Works. That works. What else? Chris? Chris is heading up the grief part of the team, and Jesse Sherling is heading up the support part of the team. So those are our Jesse and Dixie. Jesse and Dixie. And so we have those 4 teams being led by these really wonderful people, and they could all use your help. So if you're interested in working with Chris, see Chris. And there's a lot of work to be done around grief right now. Oh, right.
To do.
Great point. Grief Share, the 13 weeks class, is just one portion of the grief support that we will provide, and it is so important that it's a separate part. It's beyond the other support that we offer. Sure.
Budiger's Landscaping and Bar. And so there were beer signs on the wall, seriously, beer signs. But it was a great facility. It was like a wooden building. It kind of had a camp feel, like a Sacramento type of feel to it, It was awesome. It was what our church was then, which was really cool. Can I say one more thing about my life and how the church has impacted me. For 5 years, I worked 2 jobs. I worked from the time I was 58 to 62, I worked 7 days a week because my son's illness, because we did not know what was wrong with him. He has a very serious autoimmune disorder that's progressive. And I mean, working 7 days a week is hard when you're 58 to 62, 5 years. And this church was so supportive. I couldn't come ever on Sunday, but people always cared and they always prayed for me. And somehow I made it through, and somehow I'm still working. So thank you all for all your support. It was wonderful. I appreciate it.
It's really beautiful. Let's give Janet a round of applause for being so open.
Thank you, guys.
Next week, be here at Parables, 10:15. You're not going to want to miss Reader's Theater and a performance of Ragman. Yeah, stand up if you're, or wave a hand if you're a part of Reader's Theater. Yeah, you can stand up if you're able. I just don't want to make people stand up if they don't want to. Yeah, we've got this great group of people. They're working really hard. This is a part of storytelling, and I really am longing for Morning Star to embrace this identity of being a storytelling church, because Jesus was a storyteller, our faith is our story, and there are so many different ways that we can tell it. So thank you, Elaine Ham, for leading that group, and don't miss it next week, Parables.
Amy,
Yes.
one more thing.
Sure.
I just remembered something I cannot forget to tell. It's a story that involves Jeff Lewis. We, several years ago, were going to the wedding of a daughter of a couple that had gone to Morning Star. And the wedding was outside near the university, and Jeff told me, I'm not going to go there. It's hard for me to stand. It was going to be standing. So I will meet you at the Elks Club for the reception afterwards. Well, that was fine. I get out, I call him, I go to the Elks Club. I meet him, we walk in the door, we sign the guest book. We go into this big hall with all these tables set up in this huge Mexican food buffet. And I thought, oh, this is great. And we got the food and we looked around and I thought, I only know one person here, and it's a retired dentist. I said, oh, that's funny. There's a lot more people here than there were at the wedding. This is so odd. And then I said, Jeff said, is the wedding party here? And I said, the good news is they are, and the bad news is it's not our wedding party. And we got up and we walked over to the gift table to retrieve our gifts. There was another Target sack just like mine next to mine, so I'm looking inside like I'm going to steal it or something. And these 2 girls walked up and said, are you in the wrong wedding reception? And I thought they were going to have us arrested or something. I thought they were the bouncers. And she said, so are we. We left, so we got to eat twice that day. It was great. Jeff and I have shared many, many funny moments, but that was about the funniest.
That's the best story to end on. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Give Janet another round of applause.
Thank you.
You spend time at Parables, where Jennifer taught you how to eat free on Saturday nights.
No, I don't have the